Coming at number 5, we've got Ourmorrows. Have you ever watched someone fall in love with the idea of something? Like a high schooler going head over heels for their crush without actually knowing all that much about them, let alone actually talking to them? Or maybe someone falling victim to the never meet your heroes cliche where they develop some sort of parasocial relationship with someone and then find out what they're really like. I suppose this kind of thing happens even more than ever with the way people present themselves in online spaces, but it's been happening for ages. There's no avoiding the tragic comic classics when it comes to people and the stories they get caught up in. Although one would think that angels might know better. Enter Ourmorrows. Sounds kind of like amorous, which kind of makes sense as I continue to explain what I'm talking about. This is an angel who is a friend of Enoch. One day Enoch came to hang with Ourmorrows and began to describe what humans are like, their forms, the way they acted and reacted, the things they believed in, the works. And although Ourmorrows had never met a human, he began to fall in love with them, or the idea of them. He, like so many other watchers, decided to descend to Earth in order to be with the humans. Whether this was out of pure love, or lust, or some combination of the two with many other factors, we may never know. But down he went, which was the beginning of the end. Given his name, which means accursed one, he was lost. Ourmorrows' voice was taken from him as well, leaving him unable to pronounce words as he once did. And there he languished, no longer an angel, forced to live beneath the humans that had entranced and tempted him so. He is the angel of undoing and taught many things to the humans. He introduced them to methods used to counter magic users, and in doing so sped up the advancement of corrupt societies. Destruction was wrought through his lessons, and he made it so humans were even more prideful and powerful than before. All because he had heard about humans and dreamt up a version of them in his angelic head. So let this be a lesson to all of you chronically online folks out there. Project a bunch of stuff onto someone you don't know, and you could end up literally being cast out of your home and down into hell. Keep that in mind. Coming in number 4, we've got Tamia. When a name shows up in multiple popular creepy TV shows, you can probably assume there's some spookiness to its owner. In the case of Tamia, we can see why almost immediately. Featured in both The Walking Dead and Supernatural, this angel has some star power, and it doesn't stop at star power, he's got some crazy other powers too. He was once an angel up in heaven, of course, with all of the divine providence that comes along with that. However, that wasn't quite enough, and Tamia made his way down to Earth and eventually to the underworld itself. There he became known as the Angel of the Unseen. Tamia will take a human and put them into a dreamlike state where they remain for extended periods of time. In this dream, humans will experience their personal idea of heaven. Over thousands of years, this angel would do this to many different humans, often under the guise of another. He took on many different names during this process, slyly hiding his identity from those who may recognize him. The reason for these covert operations is largely unknown, but I'm sure you can fire some guesses down in the comments. It wasn't only dreamy heavens that Tamia gave to humans though. He also taught them many things considered taboo at the time. Famed for his teachings of astrology, he gave humans the means with which to decode the stars above them and apply their movements to their lives. A little less popular, teaching the wicked strikes of spirits and demons to children. So if your kids are talking about how angels and demons are terrifying and maybe how they'd like to be just like them, you can blame this angel. He's also a teacher of the strikes of the embryo in the womb, and you can figure that one out on your own. So among Christians, he's got a lot of reasons to be unpopular. Overall, this is a very zealous teacher who is handing out knowledge that folks might not be super happy about in the long run. Plus, getting put into a dream coma might be nice for you, but it's probably not ideal for your immortal soul. Huh? Coming in number 3, we've got Pentamu. Knowledge is power, that's for sure, but it can also cause plenty of problems, as we can see while looking at literally any point in history. And who can we blame for all of this? Why, Pentamu, of course, the fallen scribe, angel of the written word, curer of stupidity in man and revealer of secret wisdom, a Prometheus in a different body. What an angel. It's too bad all these things didn't end up producing a net good for the world, or it could have been wicked. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. Pentamu is another fallen angel who was once a watcher. Wanting to provide humans with all sorts of forbidden knowledge, they did just that. Descending to Earth with ink and paper in hand, Pentamu taught people how to read and write, and while doing so purged a good deal of stupidity from the world. Unfortunately, the proliferation of written communication created an environment where stupidity could thrive if left unchecked. Should have saw that one coming. If all sorts of skilled and careful writers get together and discuss, new and useful ideas may be born. If essentially everyone on Earth has access to all of these writings and the ability to give their 10 cents, oh boy. So while the intentions were good, the execution wasn't so great. And the fallen angel Pentamu doomed us to scrolling endlessly on Twitter, getting into arguments with distant family over Facebook, and of course, reading comments on YouTube. Coming in number 2, we've got the 5 Satans. Okay, this one seems weird to put in a top 5 list, but hear me out. There are 5 fallen angels who are said to have tempted their compatriots into feeling lust and desire towards humans. For this grave infraction, they will forever be known as the 5 Satans. Yekon, Asbiel, Gadriel, Kazde, and the previously mentioned Pentamu were all responsible for this. In doing so, they doomed humanity to a horrible flood and split the heavens in twain. The angels who remained on the side of God fought against their brethren who went down to earth, and nothing has ever been the same. Each of the 5 Satans played their part in corrupting and swaying others away from their predetermined path, and in doing so, they truly earned their fallen angel titles. Condemned and sent down to hell, these 5 are full of hatred and temptation. And what a name for that group too, eh? 5 Satans. It's a pretty wicked way to be referred to. And finally at number 1, we've got kokabiel. And one more for good measure, right? This fallen angel is known as the Angel of the Stars, which sounds lovely, right? And mostly it is. The thing about kokabiel is that there is a divide as to whether he could be an angel or a demon. Could be a little bit of column A, could be a little bit of column B. Or maybe one and not the other. I don't know. That's what makes this potential demon so spooky. At any moment, it could be revealed whether you can trust him or not, whether he has the order of the cosmos in mind while acting. Terrifying in its vagueness, that's for sure. If we're going to assume that kokabiel did indeed fall though, we can see that he does indeed have control over some 365,000 spirits in the underworld. That's enough to drown really any other army, and we can probably assume that numbers growing by the day. People die and disappear, but their spirits stay in the underworld forever. It's a little darker of a note than I anticipated, but we'll roll with it. Oh man, oh man. Someday we'll all be demons, I guess. Who's to say that we aren't already? What's that comic strip with the 2 people in the grocery store again? In hell there's relief and utter helplessness. Here our actions have consequences for both ourselves and others. Surely this is worse? A classic. Coming in number 5, we've got abizifibu. Fallen angels tend to have pretty wild names, so we'll kick off with a good one. Abizifibu, abizifibu, abizifibu. Keep saying it, I swear nothing bad will happen. While some angels fall from heaven and just chill in the sacrilege paradise that is hell, some have higher hopes for sure. Good old abizifibu is one of those with goals, aspirations, a day planner fully loaded with terrible tasks. After following Beelzebub in a grand exit from the Holy Land, he became quite an important demon in hell. Most hell dwellers choose to follow a certain demon or become part of a legion of some sort. This fallen angel has control over all sorts of imprisoned souls. Some say that this charge is both a privilege and a burden though, but I would imagine the same is true of all sorts of tasks in hell. There's much more to this demon though. He doesn't just remain in hell for all of eternity. In fact, there's a wild story about what abizifibu got up to above ground. After falling from heaven, he roamed about Egypt, eventually causing a pharaoh's heart to harden. This act of evil inspired the pharaoh to pursue the fleeing Israelites, which ended poorly to say the least. This pursuit resulted in the pharaoh's army being crushed by the Red Sea. Abizifibu himself was imprisoned in a pillar of water and forced to uphold a pillar of air until a temple's completion. That has to do terrible things to one's mind, so I'm sure whenever this demon escapes, he'll be ready to wreak some vengeful havoc. You'll be able to recognize this angel turned demon rather quickly too. He has 2 differently colored wings. One is bright red. So if you ever come across an entity with 2 different colored wings, one being red, you can probably be pretty sure, reasonably so, that it is abizifibu. Be careful and watch yourself, as he is the demon of pride, known to lead people astray. Coming in number 4, we've got Ferfur. Don't be fooled by the somewhat silly name on this one. Ferfur is to be feared. A great Earl of Hell, he commands 29 legions of demons that can compel all sorts of atrocities to happen. Take in that his name could be a corruption of the Latin word furcifer, which means scoundrel. We love a good scoundrel around here, but be aware that when dealing with one face to face, he will almost always come away as the loser. He's been depicted as all sorts of different things, from an angel to a fox to a winged hart, which is essentially an older species of deer, plus wings of course. In those forms, Ferfur has been known to trick and mislead people, as he is a pathological liar. The imagery of a tricky fox or deer has been used in myths and stories all across the world. Apparently, if you compel Ferfur into a magical triangle though, he will revert to his true form and speak only the truth. Whether or not you want his scratchy demonic voice telling you truths is a matter of contention though. Trickery and shapeshifting are only the beginning of this entity's power. Ferfur can force love between a man and woman, which often does not result in desirable outcomes. The actual method Ferfur employs to make this false love happen is up in the air, but maybe double check your intentions if you find yourself falling in love in the woods. Ferfur can also whip up destructive inclement weather, enormous cracks of lightning, tremendously loud thunder, and storms with rain and wind that put monsoons to shame are all under his control. So don't make him mad lest you end up struck by lightning or drowned in torrential rainfall. If you summon this fallen angel, he may impart some knowledge upon you. Often this knowledge is of divine things and meant to instill happiness. So even though he is known as a demon, he's not all that bad. There are benefits to having him around if you can manage to avoid these storms and potential forced love. Coming in number 3, we've got Adremalek. Possibly an ex-angel, possibly a Sumerian sun god, Adremalek is worshipped by people around the world who wish to offer up sacrifices in exchange for power and wealth. Here's a fun fact: not only is he a chieftain of hell, he's also got a whole bevy of other interesting hellish responsibilities. Firstly, he's the great chancellor of demons, which is pretty neat. He's also president of the Devil's General Council. Who knew the demons were so democratic and well organized? But here's the kicker, my favorite fact about Adremalek. He is the governor of the Devil's Wardrobe. Tell me you wouldn't want some fashion tips from the Devil's Wardrobe governor. Some seriously killer style on this dude. Probably has one of the original pairs of Satan shoes and everything. To ensure that he looks the part, he takes on the form of either a humanoid mule or a peacock. Or maybe sometimes he's a mule-peacock hybrid. All the above are probably true in some capacity. Be warned, even if you do encounter a fabulously dressed mule peacock man, he's not to be approached. He's described as an enemy of God, greater in ambition, guile, and mischief than Satan, a fiend more cursed, a deeper hypocrite. And we hear a lot of bad things about Satan all the time, so if Adremalek is worse and more cursed than the big guy down there, then we're in for some trouble. Maybe that's why all those hardcore streetwear enthusiasts are so pure evil. They're just channeling Adremalek. Coming in at number 2, we've got Andrus. Now we're getting into some hardcore ones. Sure, we started with some fallen angels who might have a violent tendency or two or compel people to act in ways that contradict their morals, but that's all just part of life, right? Andrus is straight up evil. He is powerful, deadly evil. The Grand Marquis of Hell, 63rd of the 72 Spirits of Solomon, and commanding 30 legions of demons. Boom. If Andrus likes somebody, he teaches them to kill their enemies, masters, and servants. Yeah, all 3 categories. He is a bringer of bloodbath and brings them often. Nobody escapes when he's around. To make matters worse, he also gets a kick out of creating bad situations. Sowing discord among people is a chief interest, and trouble seems to follow him wherever he goes. It's hard to avoid him too, as he does take many forms and can really mess up your day if you're not ready. See, usually magicians look to summon Andrus in order to gain some of his power, but he's not easily handled. He will often kill the very people who summoned him if they're not prepared for his arrival. Then he's just free to roam around with his owl head and crazy sword, murdering to his heart's content. Not great. Usually he looks sort of human, with an owl or raven head riding a dark wolf. Very majestic, very cool, very dangerous. Seriously, watch yourself if you even catch a whiff of Andrus activity. And finally at number 1, we've got Beelzebub. Somebody told me he's got a devil set aside, but I'm not really sure what to make about that. There's also talk of Beelzebub being pretty wicked with the guitar and him stealing a whole lot of souls with it. This is all just hearsay, mind you, so take it with a grain of salt. However, the mythical Beelzebub, famous fallen angel, does have a lot written about him in religious and historical texts. His name means Lord of the Flies, and he rules over those nasty little buggers down in hell. A third fallen angel after Lucifer and Leviathan, Beelzebub has a lot of sway in the lake of fire. He's Lucifer's chief lieutenant and wears that title with pride. And speaking of pride, he's also the demon of pride. Also gluttony, also the prince of false gods. Witches love him, as they often mention him as an object of desire, and Beelzebub is a name that popped up quite a bit during the Salem witch trials. His presence is everywhere, and many folks blame him for all sorts of demonic possessions throughout history. Just an absolute all-star when it comes to demonic activities. No wonder he's referenced so much in literature, music, movies, and more. Boy, howdy. Who knew angels could commit to such hard pivots? There are more of these than I originally thought, especially when you delve a little deeper. It makes me wonder what the angels who are still currently being angelic are up to. Coming in at number 5, we've got Flores. You know an angel turned demon is wicked when it shows up in essentially every RPG going, video game or not. Flores is just such a demon, making appearances in the likes of Shin Megami Tensei, Pathfinder, hell, there's even a cool Gundam named after him. At that point, you just have to accept that it is a super wicked, super powerful demon with lots to bring to the table. He goes by many names, however, so if you run into someone named Flavrus, Haurus, Horus, or Havris, you should also be on guard. His power is matched by few, and as such, Flores is a great Duke of Hell. It always amazes me how much hierarchy and organization goes on down in the underworld. Good for them, the underclass, organizing to rise up against their oppressors. As a great duke, Flores presides over some 36 legions of demons, all powerful in their own right. If a battle between heaven and hell were to break out once again, you can bet that they'd make one hell of an impact. Sorry about that. If one wishes to summon Flores, they'd better be ready. He can be quite the useful companion, as he speaks truth about all things past, present, and future. So by asking him questions, you too can have knowledge of the seemingly unknowable. Imagine the possibilities. However, and we've seen stuff like this before, to ensure the truthfulness of his answers, the asker must first compel Flores to stand in a magic triangle. Fail to do this, and he will do all he can to trick and bamboozle, and nobody wants to be bamboozled by a demon. So find that three-sided emblem and ask away. Figure out where your dad went when he left to buy milk. Find out if your grade school crush ever liked you back. See if you can puzzle out the key to godhood. One of those might be a little heavier than the others, but you get the idea. In addition to being all-knowing, Flores is extremely powerful. He has the ability to literally burn all of his conjurer's enemies in a shower of hellfire. So if you're not very well liked or too powerful for your own good, this is a good demon to conjure. Apparently this burning applies to other demons who may be against mortals, which can come in handy for sure. I doubt this makes him very popular among his demon compatriots, but hey, he can also be used to help the conjurer resist all temptations. Knowledge, enemy deletion, and temptation resist, all in the form of a terrible leopard man. You have to wonder if the heavens regret letting Flores go. Coming in at number 4, we've got Valk. You probably recognize his name too. Although the depiction of this demon in The Conjuring is far from the traditional one, but movies will do what they do. The book is always better, right? Upon first glance, one might make the mistake of assuming that Valk is a cute little cherubic boy, angel wings and all. However, take a closer look at the whole picture and you'll see what's really going on here. This cute, innocent, angelic child is actually a demon riding upon the back of a two-headed dragon. First of all, that's so sick. Secondly, what a ballsy move, retaining the angelic form while at the same time mounting a twin-domed fire-breathing terror. So less nun-like and more Bayonetta angel-like. It's cool either way, but which creature is more wicked in the end? Valk is a president of hell with leadership over 30 legions of demons. So while he might not be quite as powerful as our boy Flores, he definitely pulls his weight. He's also attributed with the power to find hidden treasure, so if gold and silver and precious stones are your thing, maybe consider finding this dragon rider. I'm sure pirates would have loved this guy, although anybody on a boat for months at a time might see a little boy on a winged worm and think, oh, I've gone insane. Valk is also proficient at finding another thing, which to most people might be a little less precious. He is a serpent dowser, able to locate, reveal, and render harmless all varieties of snakes. So if you've got some stuff in common with Indiana Jones, it could be nice. Valk doesn't just nerf the snakes though, he can also control the slithering creatures. And if you've ever played D&D with a low to mid-level druid, you'll know just how useful a handful of poisonous serpents can be. Treasure, snakes, riding upon untraditional steeds. Maybe this angel-turned-demon did preside over Indiana Jones. Coming in at number 3, we've got Zafan. Here we go, a true fallen angel. The entities we mentioned before are implied to have been angels at some point, corrupted and brought down to demonhood, but this guy right here has verifiably washed his hands of heaven. When Satan took up arms against God and his supporters, Zafan was right there, ready to lend a hand to the eventual devil. Most demons are probably associated with some sort of fire though, right? Like, they live in hell after all. They're constantly talking about casting people in a lake of fire, but Zafan, he is a true fire lover, an emberhead, an inferno enthusiast, a flame freak. Get this, before he and the other angels were cast out of heaven, he came up with the bright idea to set fire to everything up there. That's right, he was the original arsonist, burning the heavens where he was created to get revenge upon those who would smite him and his fallen friends. So it only makes sense that he would now be a very fiery fiend. In the abyss, he's in charge of constantly stoking the flames, whether by blowing on them with his mouth, fanning them with his hands, or using the emblem most associated with him, his bellows. The furnace would not produce flames as hot without the help of this burning brute. Some just want to watch the world burn. Coming in at number 2, we've got Mastima. It's ambiguous as to whether Mastima is a fallen angel or simply an angel full of wrath. Either way, he's terrifying. Regardless of the outcome, Mastima did indeed begin his career in heaven. For quite some time, he was known for persecuting evil in the name of God. This wasn't done with kindness and light though, it was done through divine punishment, torture, violence, and fear. His name can mean hatred, hostility, enmity, and persecution, so you figure it out. While in heaven, it seems that he was a watcher. However, it's hard to say whether he joined the watchers that indulged in the earthly pleasures that brought about the Nephilim. Some texts refer to him as the father of all evil though, so there's always the possibility that he decided to switch sides. In fact, Mastima was a well-documented flatterer of God, and, well, if someone's too close to true power and always flattering, they often have ulterior motives. This bit is further confused when the Watchers are being cleansed from the earth by an incredible flood, and Mastima implores God to let him keep and control 1/10 of the remaining demons in order to test humans and weed out the corrupted. So even if he remained an angel of sorts, he also controls a horde of demons and does demonic things, from seducing folks away from goodness and light to carrying out heinous punishments. And finally at number 1, we've got Lucifer. Now how could I go 2 whole lists about angels becoming demons and not mention the most legendary of fallen angels? Lucifer Morningstar. There is all sorts of contention as to whether Lucifer is also Satan and also the devil, or if he's one and not the other, and what each title means specifically, but putting all that aside, let's take a quick look at the story most folks are familiar with. Lucifer was once a beautiful and infallible angel, nearly perfect in all ways. Being so powerful and excellent, Lucifer started to lust after the place of God. His pride became his downfall, as is the case in many tales, and Lucifer was corrupted with sin. In holding himself too highly in his mind, he attempted to take the place of God, and in doing so, started a war in heaven. This, as we all know by now, did not go well for Lucifer. He and all of the angels that supported him were defeated, and God didn't have to lift a finger. What can you do, right? Lucifer was cast out of heaven and given a new name, Satan, or adversary. It's fitting. So if you're ever feeling really good about yourself, check yourself. Otherwise, you might find yourself in a position in which you might wreck yourself. Hero to villain, rags to riches, gallant to goofus. These beings have been around since the origin of storytelling in one form or another, so it's safe to say we can't avoid such a fate. But you can be careful.